Thank you guys for watching. This is the Beacon of Nick. We are back. We are better than ever. This is my Avengers Endgame review video. I've seen the movie 3 times already, so this is my breakdown. I'm going to spoil a bunch of stuff, so please, if you haven't seen it yet, you probably should not be watching right now, and I'm going to give you what I thought of it out of 10. I absolutely loved it. I'm just going to say that right now. Thank you guys for watching, and we're going to snap, see if I can get this to work. Boom. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Beacon of Nick. It's been a little bit. It's been a short hiatus, but I am back. So here's the deal. It's been about, 9 or 10 days since Avengers has been in theaters, and I've already seen it 3 times. So I was going to wait for a while. I was going to wait for it to be out for at least 2 weekends before I did a review on it. You know I told everybody, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do an Avengers Endgame review. And I wanted to wait for that because I wanted to give everyone time to go see it, first of all, and I planned on including spoilers, and I didn't want people to, if they watch my video, to get the entire movie spoiled for them. And now when you guys have already seen it, hopefully, or if you haven't seen it yet, I would caution you not to watch this because I'm going to be talking in detail about some of the spoilers and what happened in the movie and stuff. So yeah, I said I've seen it 3 times already, and this is by far my favorite MCU movie of all time, and that's probably going to be controversial because I'm sure everybody has their own opinions on what's the best. But Avengers Endgame was, lo and behold, my favorite. 100%, like, it just blew the rest of the MCU out of the water, and it gave us a movie that was completely encapsulated with fan service, and that's what I loved. It rewarded you for seeing the first 21 or 20. It was 22 now, 22 movies, and that was amazing. There was a lot of things that I liked 95% of the stuff in the movie, and there's 5% that I was indifferent on, but I didn't really hate anything in the movie because, like, the first time I saw it, I might have left and been like, yeah, there was some stuff I didn't like, but then the second and third time that I saw it, those things didn't seem as big. So I more or less understood more of the directors and their producers, their point of view. So guys, so first of all, the movie opens up with Hawkeye and his family. Just like, if you guys watched my previous video where I was talking about my predictions and whatnot, that's how I predicted it to be opening, and I'm not the only one that thought that. There's a lot of people that thought that the movie was going to open with Hawkeye with his family because that's such an integral part of that character's journey. You see Hawkeye with his daughter, and his daughter shooting the bow and arrow, and then she hits a bullseye, and then first of all, you can see the monitor on Clint's ankle, on Barton's ankle, meaning he's still on house arrest, meaning this is actually a while before everything else happened. And then she gets the bow and arrow, she hits it. Clint kind of gives her a pat on the back, says, go get the arrow, and all of a sudden she goes, and then Hawkeye's wife is like, hey, come for dinner, our sandwiches are ready, and all of a sudden she's like, all right, he's like, we're coming, we're hungry, and then he looks over, and then his daughter's just gone. And he's like, what the hell? And he looks over, and then his family's gone. And he's running, he's like whistling for his sons, and he's trying to call his wife's name, and they're just gone. They're long gone. So then that is when the beginning of the movie opens, and then the credits play, and they pick the song Dear Mr. Fantasy. I think it's by Traffic. And that was a great way to open the movie. And then it shows Tony and Nebula on the ship. Tony's like, we only have 48 hours of oxygen or whatever left. And I know he said oxygen's going to run out tomorrow morning. It shows Nebula and him playing the football. They're tossing the football back and forth. And then lo and behold, Captain Marvel comes, saves them, brings them to Earth. The Avengers are reunited. Tony's really bitter at Steve because of all that's happened, previously. And the movie, honestly, it starts off so well because it follows each one of the characters' journeys. And then Tony gets back. Tony's like, I'm not helping you guys. I'm done. This is stupid. We lost the kid. I'm going to leave, and I'm not doing this anymore. So then the rest of the Avengers, with Captain Marvel included, go, and they find Thanos in his little shack on his garden planet. And because they tracked that he used the stones again, that he used the Infinity Stones again, and that they could track where his planet was, and Nebula already had a general idea. So they all get in Rocket's ship. They're flying to Thanos' new planet. Rocket's like, you better not throw up on my ship, which is a great line to all the people. He's like, who's been in space before? Like 3 or 4 raise their hand. He's like, you better not throw up on my ship. And that was great. They get there, and then They ended up just brutally killing Thanos, and they realized before that he didn't have the stones. He used the stones to destroy the stones. And you see Thor ends up cutting his head off. Thor just brutally cuts off Thanos' head. Thanos dies, and Thor walks away, and you could tell he's not very satisfied with that, even though he did kill the person that... Because he still failed. When he threw Stormbreaker, when he tossed Stormbreaker, he didn't kill Thanos, and that is what allowed Thanos to snap his fingers. Half the life in the universe is erased. Thanos wins. Thanos retires, and then Thor does come back, and he chops his head off. He's like, and someone's like, "What did you do, Thor?" And he's like, "I went for the head." And then he walks away, and you can tell he's still bummed out. He's like, that didn't really help me at all. That's not what I was looking for. But at least it's closure. Even if it's not the best kind of closure. So then it flashes forward 5 years later. You see, I'm going to make this all brief because it could take me. I could actually, this could be a 3-hour video. But then it shows Ant-Man coming out of the quantum realm. A rat steps on the device. Ant-Man shoots out. Ant-Man finds the rest of the Avengers. And then they basically convince Tony, because Tony at this point has a family. He's got a daughter, Morgan H. Stark. And then Tony finds a way to actually use Ant-Man's time travel, quantum realm device or whatever, to actually go back in time. He creates this like time travel GPS, space and time GPS, and that allows them to basically just go back whenever they want to go back, and basically they can go back and they can get stones from a different alternate reality. So the MCU version of time travel is when you go back, it doesn't change the future. Like the future, your future self, like the future that you just left will continue on. You're going to go back, and that's going to basically be a diverted timeline that'll go, and you're going to live that new life, and your current timeline will be unaffected by that. And I really do like how they approach that. But even with that said, there still is some plot holes in that, because later in the movie you see something that really doesn't fit that idea of their time travel. So they kind of broke the rules of their own time travel confinement, their rules. So I like how they did that. Basically, all the Avengers, then they plot out where each stone was at a certain point in time, and they break off into 3 teams. One team goes after the mind, the time, and the space gem. One team goes after the power and the soul, and then Thor goes back to Asgard to get the Aether or the reality gem. So they go to get those, right? And then and at that point, Thor he goes back to Asgard, right? He goes back to Asgard, and essentially it's like he still. So before all this happens, right? Thor is really not the same version of Thor that he should be, because he's still dealing with all of the effects of not preventing Thanos from snapping his fingers, right? That was a big thing. That was a huge thing. So Thanos snapped, and then Thor is the one that chucked Stormbreaker, hit Thanos right in the chest, but then Thanos was still allowed to snap anyways. Thanos still snapped his fingers. So Thor is taking full responsibility, even though it's not completely his fault, or it's everyone's fault. So then the movie continues on, and Thor's bummed out. So they went in a weird direction with Thor. So Thor ended up getting he got pretty fat. He got really depressed, fat. He's sitting inside with Korg and Meek, and that's his new life, right? He's with Korg and Meek, and he's inside all day. That's it for him, right? So Thor reluctantly joins the team again, because they're like, yeah, there's a chance maybe that we can go back and we can figure out what went wrong. So Thor reluctantly goes back, and then it shows, earlier in the movie, it shows Hawkeye, who basically went rogue. Hawkeye basically just went out, and he lost his family. He became this warrior known as Ronin, who basically Ronin is like a samurai warrior that has no master, has no purpose, or has no ambition. So his family was the reason he did what he did. In the first place, he joined the Avengers. It was all for his family. So he loses his family, and he loses his desire to... He loses himself. He lost a big part of himself. And he basically just went out, and he was killing a bunch of people. And most people that he killed, were bad, but I'm sure he killed innocents along the way. He was just killing people in huge quantities. And then it shows that Black Widow figured out where he was going, finds him in Tokyo. She watches him slaughter this, I think it was the tribe called the Yakuza. So he's in Japan. So he ends up slaughtering. He's fighting the Yakuza. He kills one of the main Yakuza bosses. Black Widow finds him, and he turns around. He rips his mask off, and he turns around, and she's standing there, and he's like, "You shouldn't be here." And she's like, I think she said, "Neither should you." And then, basically, she's like, "We found something, a chance, maybe." And he's like, "Don't." And she's like, "Don't what?" He's like, "Don't give me hope." And then she's like, "I'm sorry I couldn't give it to you sooner." And then they go and they fly back. And Hawkeye is with the rest of them at this point, and they're trying to figure out how to get the time travel device to work. Tony's now helping them. They've got it mostly figured out. And then he tries to go back first. He's the one that goes back to his previous timeline before his family disappeared. And then he goes and he finds his family. And right before he can talk to any of them or interact with any of them, he gets sent back to where they're at right now. And so the rest of them, they all go back in time. You have Tony, Cap, and Ant-Man going back to New York, which is really cool because in the comics, Ant-Man was part of the original Avengers team, and we never got to see him in that original Avengers team in the first movie, right? So now we get to see him go back in New York, and he's in the Battle of New York, which is really cool. That was a cool fan service moment. And then they're all trying to get the stones. They're all disguised as people. We get a really cool scene where Tony goes back and he, like, when the original Battle of the Avengers is wrapping up and they're all surrounding Loki and Hawkeye's got his bow and arrow drawn and they're all around him, and Loki's like, if it's all the same to you, I'll have that drink now. And then Tony's like making fun at this scene. He's like, are we just gonna stand around posing all day? And then he in his new suit, he flies out of the Avengers Tower. First of all, he flicks Ant-Man into the chest where the Tesseract is, and then they have this intricate plan to shut off Tony's arc reactor right when the Hydra agents are about to take the Tesseract. Tony basically has like a cardiac arrhythmia, and essentially the cube gets in the hands of the new Tony, the one that we're following in Endgame, obviously, and then Hulk comes out of this room and bashes Tony. Tony flies. The cube ends up at Loki's feet, and Loki gets away in this timeline. So the Avengers going back alter this timeline, and Loki ends up getting away in the Battle of New York, which is really cool. So they end up getting all the stones. Bruce goes back. Oh no, Hulk was with them too. The new Hulk was with them. The new Professor Hulk. He's a blend of the old Hulk and Bruce Banner. So he's like the best of both worlds. You got the brains and the bronze together. There's a lot of funny scenes with Hulk, which I loved in this movie. It was great. So that was cool. And then they end up getting all the stones. There's a really cool scene, if you guys remember, from Captain America: The Winter Soldier, when Cap goes back, and he's in the elevator with all these Hydra agents, and he's like, "Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?" So there was a cool callback to that scene when Cap gets in the elevator. It's basically all the same Hydra agents plus a couple extras that weren't there, and they're all standing there, and the one guy's like ready to pull out his taser, and the other guy's like, they're all ready to like reenact the scene, and then Cap is like, I'm running point on the scepter. I'm in charge of the scepter. I'm running point on it, and the guy's like, Cap, we're not giving you the scepter. He's like, well, there was already orders for me to get it anyways, and they're like having a hard time. Cap's having a hard time getting it, and then all of a sudden he leans over to, I think it was Romo maybe, or it was the other guy. I can't remember his name right now. He leans over. He's like, "Hail Hydra!" And all of a sudden, like you see the guy's face. He's like, "What?" And he just hands him the case with the scepter in it. And then Cap's leaving, and then he runs into the old Captain America. They have a really big fight, and the one scene, the old Cap's like, "I can do this all day," and the new Cap's like, I know, and they have a cool fight scene. Ends with Cap piercing him with the scepter, like basically making him fall asleep, and that's how that ended. Thor goes back to Asgard, and him and Rocket go back to Asgard. And Thor's huge thing is he's not ready to be Thor. He doesn't want to be Thor anymore. He doesn't think he can do it. He's depressed still, and then he has a conversation with his mom, which is cool. They go back, and then Thor is convinced that he can, do what he wants to do. And his mom's like, don't be, all of us fail at being the person that we're supposed to be. The true measure of success is how well we're successful at being who we are, or something like that. Something along those lines. I butchered it, but, so Thor goes back with Rocket. They get the aether from Jane, because Jane's in Asgard at that time. That was like during Thor: The Dark World. You see Loki in his cell, like he's throwing something in the air. And then they go to Morag. So War Machine and Nebula end up going to Morag to get the Power Stone. They see Quill there. So Quill is basically dancing, and he's singing what he's singing. I can't remember what song he sings. I can't even remember at the top of my head right now. I'm drawing a brain fart, but he's like, "Come and get your love," is what the song was. Come and get your love, and then War Machine just brutally bashes him over the head, knocks him out. They go in there, and War Machine's like, "This is probably gonna have booby traps. It's called the Temple of the Power Stone." And then they go in and they grab it. Nebula freaks out because then current Thanos is there, and Thanos is essentially figuring out what they did in their timeline, and he gets so angry about how they killed him off, and they're trying to reset what he's already done. So then his grand plan becomes trying to go back and stop the Avengers in that timeline from erasing half the population. And they're basically now trying to escape, get all the stones back, and now they have Thanos. They don't even know Thanos is essentially coming for them now. But they all end up getting the stones. Thanos abducts Nebula, and then basically now they all go back, and then it shows Hawkeye and Black Widow. They have to go to Vormir, and as you guys remember from the first Infinity War movie, you have to sacrifice something you love to obtain the Soul Stone. So Hawkeye ends up throwing Black Widow off a cliff. Black Widow, well, they were both fighting over who should do it. They both volunteered. They both wanted to do it. So they're fighting, trying to jump over the cliff before the other one could. Hawkeye shoots a bow and arrow. She electrocutes him. He goes to jump, and she has like a little grappling hook that pulls him back, and they're both dangling off the cliff. And then she's like, Hawkeye's grabbing onto her, and she's like, "Let me go. You can't hold this forever." And then that is essentially when he lets go, or she kicks off, and then he kind of loses her grip, and she falls. Super sad. I the first time I saw it, I cried my eyes out of this scene because Black Widow's my favorite. She falls, and then that was basically that. And they all come back, and they kind of have like, they're all like, "Yeah, we did it. We got all the stones." And they look, and Clint falls to his feet. He falls to his knees, I mean. And they're like, "Oh my God, she didn't make it." And so that was that. They kind of have like a mini service for her, but they also have to go, and they have to get all the stones together. And at the time, I think Tony's working on the gauntlet, so he creates this gauntlet that can actually harness the power of the stones. And they're arguing over who should put it on. They figure out that the radiation from the gauntlet is mostly gamma radiation. That means that, and if you guys remember from the Hulk movie, Hulk basically gets created from gamma radiation because they were trying to copy Steve Rogers' formula from the first Avenger. And Hulk, it goes very wrong, to say the least. It goes very, very wrong, and that's how Hulk's created. So Hulk's like, well, if the gauntlet basically gives off gamma radiation, it was like made for me. So Hulk goes off, or Hulk puts it on, snaps his fingers, and he snaps and brings back the other half of the population. And then before that ever happened, it shows Thanos' ship because he got his hands on Pym particles from Nebula, and he flies through the roof of the Avengers headquarters. So he's right above the headquarters for like the past 5 minutes of the movie when they're snapping. And then they look outside and they're like, "Did it work? It worked! Holy crap!" And all of a sudden, Bruce is on the ground because like he almost got knocked out from snapping, and you see his arm all frayed and destroyed and whatnot. They look up. Thanos is raining down hellfire, destroys the entire Avengers headquarters, and they're all basically destroyed. Thanos comes down with Nebula, and he tells Nebula to go find the stones. He's going to wait there, and he does. Nebula goes to find him. Cap, Iron Man, and Thor come out of the rubble. They have a giant fight with Thanos. They get their asses kicked, but we see an amazing fight scene where they're all showing new powers that like we kind of didn't know they had. And then it comes down to Thanos is trying to pierce Thor with Stormbreaker. You see Mjolnir fly up because they still have Mjolnir, or Thor's hammer. Flies up, shoots right into Cap's hand, and Cap and Thanos have one of probably my favorite fight in the MCU. They fight. Cap has amazing offense. He's kicking Thanos' ass. Then Thanos kind of comes around, starts kicking Cap's ass, and then Cap's on the ground, broken shield. Tony's on the ground. Thor's on the ground. They're all basically toast. Hawkeye's got the gauntlet at this point. It shows Hawkeye trying to fight off a bunch of the Black Order and it wasn't Chitauri. It was the Outriders from Infinity War. He's fighting them off, And then it shows Thanos still sitting there, and then basically it's just Cap left. And Hawkeye's trying to get out, finds Nebula. It's the wrong Nebula. Hawkeye gives the gauntlet to Nebula. Old Nebula comes, shoots, or new Nebula comes, shoots the old Nebula, and the gauntlet gets back with Hawkeye. And then all of a sudden, you see Cap with his broken shield walking towards Thanos. The entire Chitauri army and the Black Order are coming down, and it's just Cap versus Thanos. And that's a callback to the comics when Cap said, as long as one man stands against you, you'll never be able to win. So that's what Cap is trying to prove here, which is the best. I love that moment so much. And then it shows that, and then all of a sudden Cap's walking towards him. Cap's like, this is how it ends. His little transponder in his ear, you hear Sam Wilson. He's like, Cap, can you hear me? On your left. And then that's when I lost it in the theater. I went nuts. You see a Doctor Strange portal open, and basically Black Panther steps out first, and the audience went crazy when I was in the theater the first time, and every time after that. And then all of a sudden you see Falcon fly through another one, and then you see all the Guardians come out. Then you see all the Ravagers. You see all the Wakandan army. You see Doctor Strange and all these new wizards that apparently he's been training or that exist now. You see the Ancient One. You see and then you see the Valkyrie and her new army. You see a bunch of these characters that you kind of forgot about that were still there when Thanos snapped his fingers and brought them all back. Then we have the biggest fight in the history of Marvel. It was the best fight I've ever seen in any movie. They fight it out. They're passing the gauntlet back and forth. There's a lot of cool action. Ant-Man punches one of the Leviathans, falls, giant battle. Thanos ends up getting all the stones. There's a lot of cool interactions between all the characters. Captain Marvel comes back and destroys the Thanos' ship. And that was beautiful. And then essentially they're playing hot potato with the gauntlet, trying to keep it away from Thanos. They're trying to get it to Ant-Man so he can return the stones to the regular timelines, so they don't get lost and they don't deviate and they don't mess it up more than they already did. And Thanos gets his hand on the gauntlet eventually. And then Thor grabs him, Captain Marvel grabs him, Iron Man grabs him. None of them are successful, except Iron Man grabbed all the stones out of the gauntlet, snaps his fingers. Thanos is gone. The entire army's gone. And that's how it ends. And then Iron Man dies. And this is when I cried for 15 minutes straight in the movie. I lost it so hard. Shows his funeral. Well, first of all, it showed the interaction with Tom Holland, Pepper, Rhodey, all of them, Cap, and then he dies. Pepper's like, it's okay, you can rest now. His arc reactor goes dim, turns off. Iron Man's dead, and that's it for the character. And then they shows the funeral. Everyone that's been an important part of Tony's life, which is a lot of people, are at the funeral. It shows his casket. It's got the arc reactor from the first Iron Man, where it says proof that Tony Stark has a heart right on it, the one that Pepper got for him. Have a service for him. There's a lot of cool Easter eggs, guys. There's a lot of cool Easter eggs. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like when it shows everyone coming back at the end after Tony's funeral, you saw Ben Mendelsohn as like the superintendent or the principal of Peter's school, which means he's a Skrull, probably. So there's going to be we know that Ben Mendelsohn's going to be a teacher at Peter's school, which maybe Nick Fury planted him there, trying to keep an eye out for Peter, because we know Nick Fury knows about him now. Which is, who knows where that's going to go. There's a lot of other cool Easter eggs, guys. Like, there's a quote that Tony tells his daughter, like, I love you 3,000. And 3,000 is supposed to represent every minute of the MCU. And it's supposed to represent just, it was meant for his daughter, but it's also meant as Marvel to us. Like, we love you guys. Thank you so much. And then there's just so many. The movie was dedicated it was a fan service movie, mixed with ending it all together, tying it all up, and giving us a story that we were satisfied with. And I left the theater like it was a weird mixture of melancholy and sad and satisfaction, because I was like, this is the best way it could have ended, but now it ended, and it was just super sad in my opinion. And I've seen a lot of people online that like people seem to not like the movie because like it was kind of predictable. But I don't think it was predictable. I just think that it sort of had to end in a way that, I mean, it was pretty easy to see where the movie's going to go. They got to get new stones. They got to resnap. They got to figure this all out. They got to reverse what Thanos did. And I don't think it was that predictable in the way they did it either. I think it was really cool how they did it. So yeah, guys, I love the movie. I thought it was fantastic. I plan to buy it when it comes out. I plan to get this movie was everything that I was hoping Marvel would produce in my life and more. And I'm so grateful that it was released when I was, that I got to follow this being young and stuff. And it was the best. It was something that I'll never forget. This journey and this long narrative that they've laid out for us. It was the best. I remember every movie was a distinct period in my life, and it's just I couldn't love it more. I could not love this universe more. So everything in the movie, regardless if I was a huge fan of it, at first I did not like Thor's character direction, and then it made sense to me once I thought about it. It made a lot more sense to me. So I was a fan of it at that point. I was fine with it. I didn't mind where they went with his character. I liked where they went with everybody's character in the movie. I thought everyone's character made sense. And in the end, they show Cap taking the stones back to their original timeline, and he ended up living out his life with with Peggy. Him and Peggy got to live out their life together, and then it shows the movie ends with him dancing. The only thing that is a plot hole is that when he went back, did he disrupt the new timeline with Peggy? Is she with him now? Did she have to give up her life with her husband, whoever she married? That didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Was it the same timeline? Because when he comes back, he didn't actually come back on the actual platform where he left. He was shown by the water. He's an old man. Gives his shield to Falcon. Says, hey, Falcon's now the only thing that's bumming me out is I have to live in a world without Captain America. Cap's well, you don't have to now because this shield's now yours. I don't need it anymore. I'm old, Falcon takes it, and that's basically the end for that. But did Cap live in the same timeline? How did he not come back on the platform? He didn't just go back and then live out the rest of his life, and now he's back where this happened, right? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And if time works differently in the quantum realm, shouldn't he age slower when he comes back? Shouldn't he be the same age? That didn't make sense to me. But I'm just nitpicking here. They're trying to end it on a tone that was good for everybody. So I'm fine with how they ended it. I just wish it would have made a little more. The sense would have been more just continuity focused and not trying to But it was fine. I loved how they ended the character. That's how he should have ended. So I was more than happy with that. And the movie ends. There's no post credits. There's no anything. The movie just ends, and the last thing you hear is Tony banging on his helmet like in the first Iron Man movie. And dude, that was the most satisfying way to go. And then it shows all of the original 6 Avengers signatures, and they ended it. And that was it. That was the end that was the last thing we see for most of those Avengers. And now going forward, there's an infinite amount of things they can do with these characters. They referenced a bunch of stuff in the movie, there was an underwater earthquake that could be Nomad or not Nomad, Namor. Maybe they're gonna bring the Submariner and they're gonna have Wakandan versus the Submariner battle they had in the comics. They have the Secret Invasion and the Skrulls, with now Ben Mendelsohn being in New York with Peter. Then you have Captain Marvel now. You have Xandar, they got decimated, so maybe Nova's going to be born. You have Thor leaving with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now they freeze him up to do whatever he wants to do with them. They're going to have some cool adventures. Maybe they're going to bring in the Annihilators with Beta Ray Bill and the rest of them versus the Guardians of the Galaxy, and them trying to bring Gamora back and trying to find Gamora. That would be cool. The new Avengers. Not the new event. Yeah, you do have the new Avengers. I mean, you have Ant-Man's daughter growing up. You have all these characters growing up. You have the new Asgard with Valkyrie now leading because Thor left and basically said, hey, now you're the leader, Your Majesty, so do what you want to do. She's like, I'm going to make a lot of changes around here. And she probably did. And yeah, it was just everything, guys. The third time I saw it, it was the best time. And literally, I could not have asked for a better ending for this 22 movie journey. It was literally everything. So I just hope if you guys go to see it, you enjoy it as much as I did. You don't really have to watch the rest of the MCU to understand what goes on. Maybe you should watch some videos that kind of brush you up on it, but it's not 100% necessary. It's just a good movie in general. It's a good heartfelt movie. You finally hear Cap say Avengers Assemble when everyone comes back through the portals, which is cool. I didn't mention that earlier, which I should have put in. So the entire movie flowed really well, and that's what I really appreciated about it. I just think that this incarnation of the Avengers was the best they could have made it. It could not be any better. The stories they told were phenomenal. The character growth was unparalleled, and the stories were just interesting and compelling. Like that's all you need in a series and in a series of movies like this. It was beautiful. What they did with the characters was beautiful. Nothing short of that. And I look forward to see where Hawkeye goes if he trains his daughter, where Loki went if they go back and they explore alternate timelines, where the rest of the characters go, where Hulk goes, where the rest of them go. There's a lot of potential here. Where Scarlet Witch and Vision go, if Vision comes back, where Black Panther goes, where the space goes, if they're going to bring in the Eternals, if they're going to bring in Shang-Chi, wherever they choose to go, guys. I'm on board. I love Marvel. I'm so satisfied with the movie. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. Easy, no questions asked. I don't even know what they could have done to make it a 10 out of 10, but it was easily a 9.5 out of 10, if not more than that for me. The Russos did a fantastic job. Everything in the movie was great. So I would 100% tell you guys, if you haven't seen it, that it is worth going to see, and it is worth watching, and it is worth devoting 3 hours of your time to. It is a ride, it is a journey, it is amazing. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, if you want to see it more than once, I recommend it. I pointed out a lot of things in the subsequent viewings that I didn't see before. So I saw it in GDX first, then GDX 3D, and then I've seen it in regular just a regular theater, which was every time I went was fantastic. So guys, that is it for the Beacon. I know it's been a bit since I posted, but I have plans for this week that I'm going to be posting a lot of content. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really genuinely appreciate it. I know it's only a half an hour. I had to make this kind of quick, but I hope I wrapped it up for you guys, and I hope I did an adequate job. If you guys have any questions about the movie, if you have anything if you have any Easter eggs that you found, post them below. If you have anything that you saw that maybe I didn't catch on, like any fan service stuff, any stuff they put in to be cool Easter eggs, like whatever it is. If you spotted a character, or like you spotted something, like I know like in Ant-Man's shop you saw like it was Cage 616, like the 616 universe in the comics. Just stuff like that, guys. So you feel free to put it down there, guys. Beacon of Nick is coming back. It's going to be hotter than ever. I'm 100% excited to see where this channel goes. This has been my Avengers Endgame review, and it's got a lot of spoilers, like I said, so hopefully you guys didn't see it yet before you watch this video. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys all really loved it. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'm going to be back real soon. This has been the Beacon of Nick. I'm Nick. This is the Beacon. So thank you guys so much.